Welcome, 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 everybody. My name is Brian, and welcome to another painting tutorial. This time around, I'm painting a sports car, the Bugatti EB110. It's a mid-engine sports car produced by Bugatti Automobiles SPA from 1991 until 1995. I don't know a lot about sports cars, but one of my students asked if I would print out some Bugatti pictures for him to draw, and I really liked this one. And around the time of the 2020 COVID shutdown of schools, I had a lot of time on my hands, I found. And I had also not painted in over 2 years because I was focusing on music. So I felt a little guilty, and finally I dusted off the oil paints and opened up the easel, and I painted this painting. And thankfully I video recorded most of the painting process. So I got around to now in 2023, December, of making a video out of this. So I hope you enjoy it and learn a little something. And let's get on with it right now. The Bugatti EB110 oil painting. So I have an old 2013 iPad with an old outdated app called Brushstroke, and I used to use the Brushstroke app to crop my paintings in quarters. There's my palette. So there's I think that's an 11 by 14 canvas. So I select the photo and I hit the crop feature, if it'll work for me. There it is. Okay, 9 squares, if you will, which means I'm going to do the same thing to my canvas. Now, I've pre-painted the canvas in just sort of a sloppy coating of green. Don't ask me why I used green. Maybe it's acrylic green. You can paint oil paint on top of acrylic. But in this case, I'm choosing not to pre-draw my underpainting in pencil and then Sharpie like I did for my baseball guys. In this painting, I just wanted to get right into it. And so I divided the canvas up into 9 quadrants. Math is not my thing, as you can tell. And I'm working off that photo that has 9 quadrants, and it helps me get proportions. And it helps me just draw it square for square. I'm using thinned out oil paint. Like I've grabbed a little oil paint on this skinny little brush, and I've really pre-wet the brush with mineral spirits or paint thinner. Odorless paint thinner. You can get it at any art store. And I'm looking at the picture off screen, which thankfully is cropped into 9 squares as well, which makes it so easy to draw this thing in proportion. Because it's real frustrating if I spend 3 days on a painting, but I got the proportions wrong. To me, it feels like a failure. I know there's something wrong with it as I'm going along. And I wish, if I had just, used the grid method. This is called the grid method. If I just used the grid method, I'd have proportions. I can fix anything in the later stages, but I can't fix proportions. So, a lot of the classic painters use the grid method as well. Raphael, for example, he would draw out his picture, his composition on paper. Then he would put the grid. He would paint the grid on his canvas, and he'd paint the grid on his drawing. Then he'd hand it off to some of his understudies and say, okay, get this picture up on the canvas for me. I've got other more pressing things to do. And so they would pre-draw it up on the canvas for him just by transferring his little drawing onto the gridded out canvas. Then Raphael would come along with his paints, and then he'd settle down into painting. But he had the proportions already done, thanks to the grid method. When I do an underpainting, I can call this the drawing, because really I'm just drawing with paint. I like to use transparent paints. The kind of paints that are really easy to see through, that work well when they're really wet down by paint thinner. In this case, it's burnt sienna. That's like a reddish brown. So I'm basically drawing with paint here. In my baseball paintings tutorials that you may have seen, I already did the drawing in pencil and then Sharpie. So I got right into painting for real. Here I'm sketching with thinned out paint. And I'm being really loose with the brush and deliberate. If I make a major mistake, I can wipe it away with a rag and then do it again. Now I'm using slightly thicker transparent burnt sienna paint. It's just a little thicker on the brush because I feel confident now that my proportions are good enough. So things are picking up. Yeah, you can see, you're not seeing my, oh, now I'm switching to an even bigger brush. This brush covers large areas faster. Because I'm working in the background, I don't have to be so precise anymore. I'm not sure what I'm trying to tell you right there with my miming. But okay, it's big brush time. All right, so now I'm going to drop in some colorful transparent paints. That looks like alizarin crimson. Although those are going to be foresty green trees, I like the darks to, there's my palette. Right around 11 o'clock there's my alizarin crimson. I like to warm up the foresty green. There I got some purple, ultramarine. I got some sap green. And I'm going to work the forest with ultramarine blues, sap greens, alizarin crimsons. All transparent paints. If you watch my baseball paintings, baseball player paintings, I do the same thing. The underpainting is all transparent paints. I like to make an almost black out of sap green mixed with a purple dioxide, ultramarine. These are all transparent paints. When they mix together, they make an almost black. It's real shiny, real juicy looking. Looks like some squished grapes. And it's very colorful. But also, you could still see the underdrawing underneath. You can wipe it right off with a rag if you make a big mistake. You can layer opaque paints on top of it real easily. It's just the right consistency to sort of be pushing paint around. Sometimes I'll lay it down and then I start sliding it around. I'm trying to get that shadow underneath the car. I think in post-production of this video, I should put a little picture, the reference photo of the car in the upper left of the screen. I'm guessing I've probably already done that and you see it up there right now. So shadows can be done with this nice combination of sap green, alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue. I have trouble saying that. It's real shiny. I like it. If I spread it out thin, then it's super transparent and I can see the undertone of green. No reason why I chose green to tone the canvas. It's better than a pure white canvas. An all white canvas is very distracting. Makes it super hard to judge shades. And so Most painters tone their canvas ahead of time to something that reads as a mid-tone, like a gray, even though it's a mid-tone green. A good painting, in my opinion, has human touch in it. So I learned not to be, when I'm painting at my best, I'm not being so fussy. I'm almost whipping that brush around like an orchestra leader and his little stick. I don't know what that stick is called. I probably knew it at one point, but I forgot. But I feel like a music conductor, an orchestra leader with that brush. I was probably listening to music, and sometimes I move that brush to the music. It should dance across the canvas in the early stages. There should be spontaneity, there should be looseness, there should be gravity pulling the paint around, and then me sort of struggling with it and when you see the end product of this painting, I think you'll see a lot of spontaneity and human touch, looseness in the brushstrokes, and I felt like this was one of my better paintings. Okay, switching to a smaller brush, right? It's time to dig in there and be a little more precise now that I've covered the canvas with something. Oh, this is exciting. Now I'm dropping in opaque colors. So this car is a sky blue, so I've reached for my cerulean blue. And I am now deciding what are going to be some of the brightest brights on top of that car. And I'm working wet on wet. I could have let the underpainting dry for a couple days, and then I could have come back and had a lot better control dropping in the opaque sky blue. But instead I'm working wet on wet, which means when I lay down this paint here, I've got to sort of drag it like frosting on a moist cake, okay? If I push too far with the brush, it's gonna mix with the underpainting and get all dirty and soiled. But if I drag that brush on top of the under layer, it behaves like frosting on top of a chocolate cake or something. I don't know why it has to be chocolate. Could be a carrot cake. But if I work it too much, it will mix with the underpainting, you know, those transparent paints that I dropped in. But if it does mix some, that's fine. I can live with it. We can do more layers later. Okay, I went and grabbed some ultramarine blue. It's like a navy blue. Now I'm putting in like a strawberry grayish blue for some of the reflective highlights on the hood. It's like sky blue mixed with a little alizarin crimson and some white. Because even though this is a sky blue painted car, the brightest parts are going to be reflecting an opposite temperature, like strawberry or oranges. Sometimes I'm going to drop in some bright oranges into the reflections. Because I didn't do a permanent underdrawing in pencil or Sharpie, when I'm dropping in these opaque colors, I've got to be mindful of the form. The angle of my wrist and every brush stroke has got to further define the form of the car. So while I'm allowing myself to be loose, I also have to be precise sometimes. That looks like ultramarine blue, the navy blue I was talking about. When you see a blue car, it's never one shade of blue and it's never one type of blue. This car has those really cool pop-up headlights. No, they're not pop-up headlights, are they? But they're angled. It reminds me of my first car. My first car was a 1985 Toyota MR2 with pop-up headlights, and it was in fire red. I bought it from a guy for $100 in the year 1998. I think it was summer of 98. This guy was joining a religious vocation and he had to get rid of all his possessions. So he would have given it to me for free, but I offered him something and he took $100. He really just wanted me to get rid of it for him. And it was in great shape. The passenger side door was banged in from a little fender bender, but the rest of the car was in fantastic shape. So at that time, it was only, 13 years old. And it needed a new battery. That was it. And I drove it all the way down to Dallas, Texas for college, my senior year. And it got me all around the city and lasted me for a couple years. Toyota MR2 had pop-up headlights. The engine was in the back. And the boot or the trunk was in the front. Man, I miss that car. So I'm working the background now, dropping in some burnt sienna plus white. And this is gonna serve as my road earthy color. Right now, I'm not distinguishing between asphalt and the dirt on the side of the road. I'm just covering the earth. I'm covering up that light green underpainting with some kind of an earthy tone. And you're gonna see that as soon as I've covered up all that green, this whole painting is gonna really look 3D. That brushstroke right there was a moment of tension, they call it. I put a bright opaque next to a dark. The right side of that car, all right, is dark blue compared to the background, so I had to put some bright right next to it. Now I'm mixing in a little bit of grayish blue asphalt color into the road. But I don't have to be right about the color choices right now. I just want to cover up the canvas. Right there, that sky is opaque. It's an opaque blue. Right next to that transparent brown. Looks pretty cool. It creates depth. But now I'm dropping in opaque greens and yellow ochres, like earthy yellows, into the foliage. Anything blue in the distance falls back. Anything warm like a brown is going to pop forward. And that's how I create depth in the distance. Things up close are going to appear dark. Things in the background generally will go lighter. So I'm dropping in an almost black there. I don't think it's real black. It's probably still a blue plus like a purple plus an alizarin crimson. Okay, I'm using the bigger brush and I'm just blending and moving paint around right here. There we go. I've covered up pretty much the whole canvas now. And now we have a believable fantasy world, another place. And I ran out of video footage, so that's the finished job, folks. Thanks for watching me paint a Bugatti EB110. This painting sold on eBay. Please visit my eBay store for my other cars, rock stars, and baseball players. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to show you how I did this painting. Please like, share, and subscribe because I've got more painting tutorials coming your way and a lot of music. I make my own music for these videos. Thanks so much for being here.